Welcome to part 2 of the Modern DT&I on location in 2023. This week, we visit Washington Courthouse, Ohio. In part 1, we followed the former Pennsylvania Railroad from Crestline to Lima. With my plans in Lima getting foiled by rental car troubles, I didn't get nearly as much exploration in as I wanted to, hence the lack of narration and detail in the last video. The next 2 videos will be much more in-depth. First, let's talk about the city's name. If you're not from the state of Virginia or familiar with the history of Washington Courthouse, the courthouse suffix might seem weird to you. The city was officially named Washington as far back as 1910, but the courthouse suffix was used to distinguish the city from other places in the state with Washington in their name, such as Old Washington, New Washington, Washingtonville, and Port Washington. The suffix is attributed to settlers who had come from Virginia where courthouse was synonymously used with county seats, for example, Appomattox Courthouse. Washington Courthouse was added to maps and postal guides, and the de facto use of Washington Courthouse persisted over time. The name was finally made official when the city adopted a new charter in the early 2000s. Washington Courthouse is the longest city name in the state of Ohio. Located in Fayette County in southwestern Ohio, Washington Courthouse at one time hosted 4 different railroad routes: the Pennsylvania Railroad branch from Circleville, the DT&I Main Line, the B&O Wellston Main Line, and the B&O Midland Main. Today, only the Wellston and Midland lines remained, and the Wellston line now ends just east and west of town, with the DT&I line picking up from the western portion and turning north. The various lines crisscrossing through town made for some interesting junctions and signal arrangements. Starting east to west through town, the PRR B&O DT&I crossing was signaled, but beyond that, the B&O DT&I crossing had a tilting target signal, and still does. I explored both areas. Some signal and switch bases remain at the location of the DT&I B&O crossing. The Pennsylvania Railroad would have crossed both lines at the road crossing seen here. Here's what the same location would have looked like in the late 70s. From the late 70s through the early 80s, trackage through here was either abandoned or consolidated. The DT&I, later the Grand Trunk Western, abandoned their lines south of Fane and reconnected into the B&O at that location, using trackage rights on the line to Chillicothe, and then over the C&O to Waverly and on to Jackson. The GTW would later purchase the Wellston line from Washington Courthouse to Musselman, where it connected to the B&O's line from Chillicothe to Cincinnati. The DT&I south of Washington Courthouse was abandoned, with the exception of a short stretch in Greenfield. Later, Jackson and then Waverly were also abandoned. Enjoy these clips from the 80s from Neff Videos Productions' DT&I Grand Trunk series. Big thank you to Steve for letting me use this.
We're now in the town of Washington Courthouse and will watch several run-bys. Washington Courthouse is where the DT&I line intersected the Wellston line, the B&O Columbus to Cincinnati line, and the Pennsy Cincinnati to Circleville line. present, a C&O steam engine can be found behind a fence at the city park. It was one of the last steam engines of this type to be outshot by the C&O and has been found to be in great condition. A committee of local citizens has been formed to try and restore this engine to excursion service. Moving north of Washington Courthouse to Fane, we see the EMD demonstrators coming off the ex-B&O Wellston line and heading for Springfield.
Today, the Indiana and Ohio, a Genesee and Wyoming subsidiary, operates all trackage in this area. They even built a new yard at Fane, which is now called Conrad. It was at Conrad I caught the southbound train from Lima doing some work with an interesting power set. On the modern DT&I system, Washington Courthouse is the junction of the main between Columbus and Cincinnati and the main between Springfield and Jackson. The original DT&I main is now the Summit Hill Scenic Railroad and has a depot located just south of the former Diamond. A local crew is also based here. The connection between the B&O Midland and Wellston mains was also rebuilt and the curves broadened to allow more efficient and quicker movements through town. Switches are remote controlled and the tilting target signal remains. I based my model on the signal here in Washington Courthouse before its conversion to LED lights. For a more detailed look at the area, check out the system map link in the description below. While in Washington Courthouse, I was also fortunate to be invited to visit the Fayette County Model Railroad Club with my brother. I was able to see several models in person for the first time and had a great time operating and chatting with everyone. If you're in the area, check them out. You can also find them on Facebook. Enjoy some sights from my visit. Watch for a quick video in the coming days featuring some of my purchases and acquisitions from the Ohio trip for the layout. Also, next week will feature Jackson, Ironton, and surrounding areas, so don't miss that. Until then, thanks as always for watching, and happy railroading!